your chance to just reset the day. If you've had an awesome day, great. Let's keep going and keep on that momentum. And if you are having not a great day, then this is your chance to reset it. Make it great by being bold. Now, here is the book that we are going to review. Now, you may notice, those of you who are following along, and I know some of you are, that last week I didn't do a Thursday book review. Now, you may think, does that mean Allison wasn't reading a book? No. I read the book. I'm doing a book a week at least, but I didn't love the book, she says. Um, so I was like, I don't want to talk about the book. But then I was like, you know what, Allison, there's going to be somebody who needs this book because there's a ton of valuable content in it. Just because it isn't for me doesn't mean that it's not a great book. And so I wanted to be sure that I didn't skim over that and I didn't not share the lessons from it because I didn't love the book. I mean, which is an author. Here, I got to get rid of some sun. I think I'm going. Well, what? Sorry. Oh, because it's already down. Sorry. I'm like, how do I get my blinds down? Because I can see I'm doing this. So the book is excellent. Like as an author, I hate saying like I didn't love the book, but the thing is, it's just not for me. But there are definitely pieces. I went back through it. I looked at my highlights, and I'm like, okay, all that makes sense. But let me explain why it's not. Because when they're talking about being bold, and the subtitle is How to Go Big, Create Wealth, and Impact the World, the truth of the matter is, where my lens is I want to impact the world, but my definition of go big is not the same as what they're talking about. Their level of go big is I'm going to put $1 billion into a moon project. Like when we talk about moonshots, these guys are literally creating space programs. Like, I'm like, yeah, I just don't have any thinking from that perspective. Not that I don't think that's important. I do. I just am not that person. Right. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't love the book is because it's too big for me in terms of the vision to get my head around. And in the end, what they talk about is a lot of things like crowdsourcing. Well, and they also talk a lot about innovation and creating like a skunk area, which is essentially for a big tech company. The sorry about the blinds are apparently that one needs to be WD-40'd. Um, like they talk about that, and the idea is you take when you want to innovate within your company, if you really want those huge moonshots, the things that you think are impossible, then what you need to do is you need to have half of your team or like a part of your team be completely isolated from the rest of the team. Otherwise, ideas can get thrown out really quickly, right? Well, I don't have a team. Like, I mean, I do have a team. I have a team of people who help me, but like the innovation is coming from here, right? Like, or here. So that was one of the reasons why this book wasn't really for me. Then they talked a lot about crowdsourcing and how you would go about doing that. So if that's of something of value to you, awesome. But I don't think there's any way for me to crowdsource my ideas. So no, like there were a few things like I thought, okay, what's my big bold, vision, the thing? And I'm like, okay, well, if I had to be like crazy out of the world, bold, I would like to eradicate destructive stress. Like, but then I say that sounds absolutely ridiculous, right? But also, I do believe it is possible. Now, like there's certain stress that is good and healthy and is part of our lives. And then there's the other stuff that a lot of people are creating unnecessarily. So I think if you are the kind of entrepreneur that I'm not, that is someone who has this huge vision for wanting to take a widget out into market and have like millions of units going on out there, billions of units, or if you want to go to the moon, then this book is for you. If you're like me and you're like, I have a mission, I have a purpose, I really want to influence the world in a way, and I'm going to do it basically kind of on my own with a few people to help me on my team, and here's kind of what I do. I talk and, that kind of thing. It's probably not the book for you, just like it wasn't the book for me. Having said that, I mean, there's no denying these guys are absolutely brilliant. Like, yeah, beyond. So, you know, anyway, but they use a lot of examples. And if you love stories in books, I think one of the things, I've read so many books since June. I think one of the things that's happening to me is I'm getting really at a point where, like, please somebody talk about somebody else. Like, Steve Jobs is awesome, and he's been almost in like every book that uses stories. Michael Jordan, incredible player, and he's been in every book that talks about, the stories. Like, I have joked in the past that, I'll talk about resilience and I won't once mention an athlete. Like, like, come on. So, having said all of that, there are a few things that are really important. He talks, of course, about fail early, fail fast, fail often, fail forward. Okay. So the whole concept of skunk is that you need to isolate true innovation from the rest of the pack so that the naysayers and the people who are bogged down in the day to day of their life of the business are not going to poo poo an idea before it even gets off the ground. Now, let's think about how we can apply that to ourselves in our own lives, because you know what? There is a lot of value in that thinking of isolating from the day to day when you're innovating. So, could we do that though? Because, like, so often people are innovating and they are, uh, having an idea, but then getting rid of the idea before, like, X-naying it right away. And so I think that maybe if you're the only person on your team who's doing the quote unquote innovation, then you almost need to set aside some time, maybe get some personal capacity to be like, okay, I'm going to go in innovation mode right now. And what that means is I can't use the past as, an X a reason why it's not going to work. I can't make excuses. And maybe it means you need to bring somebody else into the conversation. Maybe a business coach, could be me, or there are lots of really great business coaches out there. I could to bring somebody into the conversation so that you're not stopping your innovation in the tracks before it even gets started. So I think, for that is definitely possible. It does talk about if you're not embarrassed by your first version of your product, you launch too late. And so I can resonate with that. Like, I mean, I was watching the other day. Here, let me do up my zippers. Notice that. Um, I noticed the other day I was looking back on an old presentation. I had to do something and facilitate a conversation around values. And I am very transparent. That's not my area of expertise, but I am passionate about the topic. And I did this for this organization in the spring. And I went back and I listened to my version of my live on values from April. And I was like, oh, yeah, I don't know. I'm got to see now that I've looked at that old one versus now, like, am I getting better or do I just have different bad habits? I don't know. But it was definitely eye opening. And so, all of us can look back on our lives and be like, oh, how I did that, or how I served, or how I spoke, or the story I told there, or whatever, like, is in the old days, like, we want to continually improve. And ironically, one of my core values is personal improvement or development and growth. So I can assure you that I am very embarrassed about many things I've done in the past. And he's saying that's a good thing, because and I get it, because so often people want to be perfect, right? And they're doing everything in the background and never ever getting out to market. Whereas there are other companies who go out with a minimal viable product. It basically barely works, and they go out to market and they rock it. Like, it's like, I don't know. And, part of it as I was going through this, because I know brilliant people, like brilliant, who, just aren't making it in the big way. Like, I mean, in the big millions, like, they should be in the hundreds of millions of dollars by this point, if not in the millions, or at least multiple hundred thousands. And they're not. And then I know other people who, like, are getting investments for like $50 million or, whatever the numbers are. And Like their idea is like, meh, okay. Or it's just, it's not even really solving a big problem, or maybe it doesn't even work yet and they're still getting this. And I kind of hoped that this might have answered some of those questions for me on why that happens, but I don't think it did because I'm still asking the question. Interesting how they talk. There's a whole section on mindset, which was interesting because I love talking about mindset. It does talk about the fact that when you plot happiness, I'm going to read this, against life satisfaction along income, they overlap until about $70,000. So as you go up in income, your happiness and whatnot increases. And then when you hit $70,000, which is about what it takes to pay your basic necessities and maybe have a little bit of money left over, according to this, then money stops becoming a major issue. And I mean, I've heard that before, but he goes on and he says, what does become the major issue? And this I love. There are, basic needs are no longer a constant cause for concern. Those rewards lose their effectiveness, while intrinsic rewards, meaning internal emotional satisfactions, become far more crucial. And this is so interesting. Here are the three of these that actually stick out the most: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So when you stop worrying about money, you can go into these little elements here. So this is how he explains it. Autonomy is the desire to steer our own ship. You may want to think about this if you have team members, right? Or why you may or may not be feeling really fulfilled and happy in your own workload. Keep listening to these. So autonomy is the desire to steer our own ship. Mastery is the desire to steer it well. And purpose is the need for the journey to mean something. These three intrinsic rewards are the very motivators that motivate us most. And he goes on to talk about Daniel Pink's book, Drive, which I read years ago and I loved. Okay, so what else have we got here? Oh, I did love this part. Flow follows focus. And flow is a total state of absorption. What's really interesting, and he doesn't reference them all, but he does share the 17 motivators that can get you into flow. For me, I'm all about getting into the flow state. That's why I talk about doing the focus work blocks, having accountability, having a deadline, having an inspiration, like a goal. What am I going to get done in this amount of time? Compressing the time frame, getting started. If you're not in the mood, doing 1 minute of work or doing 5 minutes of work and seeing then if that gets you going. If not, walking away from the desk, trying again. All those different things are really important because they're about getting you into flow state. And one of the things that he talked about here that I thought was brilliant is that we often talk about the goals are what we're chasing, but he's actually saying that clarity is more important than what the goal is. So having clarity of I need to do this, or I am going to exactly here is really critical in order to find that flow state. So that was interesting. By the way, hop in the chat box. If you would like to offer some insights, or if you've read this book, then please, by all means, do. If you're just joining in, we've got Bold here as the book today that we're covering. And okay, we're going to go to page 91 because there's one more thing I want to share, and then we're going to call it. The challenge skill ratio. Now, I think this is critical. The last of our psychological flow triggers is arguably the most important. The idea behind this trigger is that attention is most engaged, i.e. in the now, when there's a specific relationship between the difficulty of a task and our ability to perform the task. If the challenge is too great, fear swamps the system. And I think that's why when you hear things like, a confused mind will never buy, because it's just like, I don't know where I'm going. And that elicits a little bit of fear, perhaps. It can, like, where people get overwhelmed, like, I really want to do this, but oh, I don't even know where to start. Like, I get clients like that. If the challenge is too easy, we stop paying attention because we get bored and we, like, oh yeah, whatever, and we sort of dial it in because we're not feeling that sense of challenge. Flow appears near the emotional midpoint between boredom and anxiety. And so what's interesting is I call that the sweet spot of performance, productivity, and profitability. And if you look at, too much stress, too little stress, we'd be bored out of our mind. Too much sustained stress, we're burning out. And somewhere in the middle is your sweet spot of performance, productivity, and profitability. And so anyway, it's kind of fun when I read stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, I teach sort of something like that, but a little bit different. Kind of good. Okay, then the spot where the task is hard enough to make us stretch, not hard enough to make us snap. Okay? The other thing he talks about here is when we're interested, not riveted. But when we don't know what's going to happen next, we pay attention to the next. Uncertainty is our rocket ride into the now. So there you go. That's pretty much what I took out of this book. Again, if you love the idea of one day going to the moon, if you want to figure out how to get your big idea like funded on a Kickstarter campaign, this book is chock full of value. That's just not where my head is at. It's not where my vision is. And two reasons why I kept reading the book, because normally if I didn't enjoy a book, I would be like, okay, I'm going to go read a new book. But two things. Number one, I am doing 75 hard. And part of the rules of 75 hard is you have to read a book and you have to finish it. So you can't just dial it in and, read it. You have to read till the end. And then the next piece is it's on Tom Bilyeu's list. Let's pull this baby out. These are the books I've read off this list so far. I'm reading the Talent Code right now. I think it's almost done, but and that one I'm really enjoying. So we'll do that one next week for sure. But yeah, that's why I had to finish it. So, but I'm glad I did because again, really great things. And you read into like Elon Musk's background, and some of that was fascinating. Some of the stuff with like Jeff Bezos. But it's all the same people. Like we need more people stepping up with examples, right? And by the way, I don't think very many women in there as examples, and I don't remember noting any in this book. So that seems to happen a lot too as I'm reading through all these books. But I never use like those big examples in any of my teaching because I'm just like, you know what? People have heard them before, and I want to use examples of real people on the ground, going through the struggles, which is why I used to, or I generally use things on my own experience or my client's experience. Oh, thank you. Yeah, 75 hard. Oh my goodness. Let's look and see what day I'm on. What day am I on? Are we ready for this? Day 56. So far, I have not done my reading yet. I've got one more workout to go, and that'll be karate tonight. And then follow a diet, no cheat meals. That'll just be a given. I refuse to have cheese take me out of 75 hard. Although I am going for a party to friends, and we're going to go to Joe Cool's for nachos in a week or so. And I'm like, oh, that's going to be tough because I love Joe Cool nachos. But I can do it. Nachos are not taking me out of this challenge, baby. Anyway, I digress. I hope you've had a beautiful day. And, if you are interested in going big and bold in a whole new level, go for it. This book, definitely worth the read. You're an entrepreneur, an entrepreneur in your life. This might be a really great one for Christmas gift. Yeah. All right. I'm going to call it a day. Until Monday. Oh my gosh, it's Thursday already. Exciting. Actually, it doesn't matter what day it is. It's all exciting, isn't it? It's just such a privilege to be here alive doing what we do. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. And until then, may you stress less, do more, and be happier. Bye for now.